Thank you very much, Mr. Jaffrey, for the wonderful introduction. I do appreciate the opportunity here to speak to the MILE community, and I look forward to sharing some insights with everybody about approaches and solutions to building better people skills at work. So this is me, Dr. Martina Carroll-Garrison. I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn so I can continue to share my insights about improving the workplace. You can find me under Dr. Martina Carroll-Garrison on LinkedIn, and I look forward to your connection. By the way, I know my name is a mouthful, so I typically go by Dr. Tina for short. So my purpose is helping clients and changing lives as an executive leadership coach. This little red nugget in the middle of this graphic is what it is I love to do. Coaching and consulting in the workplace. I love it. The world needs it. I get paid for it, and I'm great at it. It's my passion, my mission, my profession, and my vocation. And where this all intersects, this serves as my life purpose, which is about helping clients and changing lives. So today, you will learn about building better people skills. You will learn three things. What are effective people skills? Why great people skills matter at work? And what are the 5 bad habits that can destroy your career and what you can do about them? So to frame the next 30 or 35 minutes of discussion, and then of course we'll follow up with some questions and answers, I want you to think about this statement. Your long-term professional success in today's workplace, independent of your technical skill, depends solely on the quality of your people skills. Again, your long-term professional success in today's workplace, independent of your technical skill, depends solely on the quality of your people skills. And I say this earnestly because many of my coaching clients are STEM professionals, scientists, engineers, IT, mathematicians, intellectually high-functioning individuals who have come of age in a technical environment, only to find out that their technical skills are insufficient to help them move forward into leadership positions in the organization. So keep this frame of reference in mind as we talk about people skills in the workplace. So typically when I'm working with individual clients or organizations, I will ask them, what business are you in? And they'll tell me they're in logistics or accounting or finance or engineering or IT. And I always help reframe the conversation by saying, I am in the people business, and I believe we are all in the people business despite or without regard to our technical skill. So when I talk about improving our people skills in the workplace, I caution us to first be aware of false thinking. People skills are erroneously considered as fixed aspects of our personality, and interpersonal skills are often incorrectly seen as innate qualities or natural characteristics. This point of view is incorrect, and this point of view is self-defeating. And what I want to show you today is that you can, with conscious and structured effort, improve your people skills and improve your people skills at work. It is absolutely within your control to learn how to have better people skills and to actually achieve more by using better people skills in the workplace. Think for a moment of some of your colleagues or perhaps some of your leaders or your current leader or previous leader who has excellent interpersonal skills, excellent people skills, is able to connect with everybody they meet, able to influence the conversation. People go to them for advice. They started off with the same clean slate that you did at birth. They just spent more time, even if it was unconsciously, developing those interpersonal skills, and they may have had better opportunities along the way. The point of this graphic is that I want you to put aside any negative thinking you might have right now around the topic of, well, I'll never be able to improve my people skills because this is just the way I was born. That is a limiting belief, And as long as you hold that belief you are correct, you will not improve your people skills. So I'm about to show you what it is about people skills that you can learn and how you can practice to improve them over time. First of all, what is the theory behind effective people skills? These really are three related sets of abilities. People skills are simply patterns of behavior and behavior interactions among and between people. There are three sets of interrelated abilities: the ability to effectively communicate, understand, and empathize. Number two, the ability to interact with others respectfully and to develop productive working relationships, to minimize conflict and maximize rapport. And number three, the ability to build sincerity and trust, to moderate behaviors, meaning to be less impulsive, and to enhance agreeableness. So I'll go through the three sets of abilities, and I'll pull out 5 or 6 points within each of the three sets of abilities to give you a deeper understanding of where you can start to apply your effort, your focus area, to systematically improve your people skills over time. Or if it's not you, then perhaps somebody you work with where you want to help them improve their interpersonal skills in the workplace. There are 10 general abilities under the personal effective column, and I'll go through some of them, but these generally are focusing on the ability to effectively communicate, understand, and empathize. Self-awareness is the first and foremost. Self-awareness is the critical aspect of building your ability to influence other people. A tremendous leadership book written about 3,500 years ago called written by Sun Tzu, a Chinese general, called The Art of War, talks about the principles of dominating any situation. And first and foremost, he says, when you know yourself and you know your enemy, victory is assured. So the first component of improving your people skills is knowing yourself, or self-awareness. Self-awareness is the process of getting to know your feelings, your attitudes, your values, how you're shaped by your culture, how you're shaped by your family upbringing, how you're shaped by your religion. Being aware that how you show up in the world influences how other people react to you. And if you have not taken the time to develop your own self-awareness, there are lots of tools to do that, some of which we will talk about in the third part of today's presentation. So remember, first and foremost, if you want to improve your ability to connect with other people, first of all, you have to be able to connect with yourself and be aware of how you present yourself on any given day. The second component is time management. This is the ability to organize one's time to best effect, because this is an important aspect of working with other people. Remember, people skills is composed of many, many aspects of your personality. If you're not able to manage your time, you diminish trust with other people that you're trying to connect and influence. So time management is a significant aspect of improving your interpersonal effectiveness. Stress management. Of course, stress is more likely to occur when there is too much or too little pressure. Stress depends not just on the level of pressure we experience, but also how we respond to those pressures. If you tend to blow a gasket or lose your cool or lose your temper when you are under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure, you lose the ability to effectively influence other people because they will push away from you. Stress is, of course, not the same as pressure. We know that pressures are inevitable, but stress can either be avoided or it can be managed. So these are some of the aspects that can either contribute to your ability to build interpersonal effectiveness, or if not dealt with, can diminish your interpersonal effectiveness. Information management. Be selective in the information that comes your way, and learn how to let go and to accept that we cannot deal with all of the possible sources of information in today's world. So there is so much information that comes at it, just as this webinar is yet another platform for delivering information. Newspaper, email, internet, all of the search platforms, all of the periodicals and articles that you read, so much information comes at you constantly. It's a barrage of information. If you do not have an internal approach to selectively managing and processing the information that comes at you, you can become overwhelmed by information, and you diminish your ability then to analyze and recommunicate that information to other people. So information management is an aspect of effective interpersonal relationships. Assertiveness, the assertiveness balance. So particularly when you're working in a cross-cultural environment, maybe one environment is more receptive to aggressive behavior, and another environment might expect more of a submissive behavior. And don't focus on these words as we currently understand them, rather just in how we approach in our interactions to other people. The goal in effective interpersonal communication is to have a personal effectiveness that depends to a large degree on the extent to which we are able to assert ourselves and influence others to our way of thinking. That really is what this need to have better people skills is about, so that we can influence others to our way of thinking. We don't want to go too far to the left and be so aggressive, even if it comes from a place of confidence, that we push people away from our perspective. And we certainly don't want to go all the way to the right and be submissive so that people suspect our confidence in our own competence. We're looking at a space that is win-win, not win-lose, which could be aggressive, or lose-win, which can be as submissive. A sixth area to think about, and some of these I've taken out some of the numbers because there's so much data and we have 40 minutes, and I really want to just give you this high-level overview of the things you need to start looking at when we're building our people skills. Beating the bully, embracing the concept of dignity at work. Remember, this is a discussion about building better people skills in the workplace. One way to do that is philosophically embrace the concept of dignity at work and a commitment to ensuring that staff, all staff, superiors, peers, subordinates, the help, the cleaning lady, anybody who's out there, that all staff should be treated with a concept of dignity in their workplace, in their reason for being at work, to ensuring that the staff are treated with respect and dignity. When you embrace that philosophy in yourself, it also rubs off on the people around you. Continuous professional development is an incredibly powerful way to improve your interpersonal effectiveness. Taking responsibility for one's own learning, such as participating in these recurring Miles webinars as an example, it's an important aspect of personal effectiveness in its own right. And the more effective we are personally, the better we will be in being able to influence and connect with other people. Okay, so the second set of abilities that feeds from the first set of abilities in terms of defining what interpersonal effectiveness is and effective people skills are our interaction skills, valuing diversity, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication, our ability to interview and solicit information from other people, our influencing skills. And the word influencing comes up more often than not when we talk about building effective interpersonal skills. Our leadership ability, our ability to handle our feelings as we interact with other people, our ability to manage conflict, and our multidisciplinary working, our ability to work across different technical fields, different cultures, different generational cohorts. Generally speaking, our interaction skills talk about our ability to interact with others respectfully and to develop productive working relationships, minimize conflict, and maximize rapport. So I'll pull out some of these topics as well also and add a little bit of clarity on them. Valuing diversity. I generally, when I talk in corporate space, I talk about these social divisions as being the devil's work. When we distinguish and delineate and pull apart people because of their age, their language, their culture, their class, their ability or disability, their religion, race or ethnicity, sexual orientation, region or gender. When we interact with other people, we do not start from a neutral point, but when we focus on those differences, we disregard the belief of dignity at work because we're already pushing somebody aside because they are different from what our norm is. And this again goes back to Sun Tzu and the Art of War, where we know yourself and know your enemy. Victory can be assured. When you make distinctions in your colleagues and then you use those distinctions against them, you're diminishing your ability to influence them to your way of thinking. Verbal communication is also another huge area in where you can improve or disimprove your interpersonal effectiveness. When we interact with other people, we must be purposeful in our communication. There are 5 points here. And so each one of these pages, I'm sure you're thinking, well, this is a whole presentation in and of itself, which is true. What I'm trying to do is to create an overarching awareness of all of the aspects that go into interpersonal effectiveness and great people skills. Don't be vague. Don't be ambiguous. Avoid using slang or colloquialisms. Articulate and enunciate carefully, and think before you speak. We hear that in many aspects of our life. Think before you speak. The third part of interpersonal effectiveness is nonverbal communication. And think for a moment of the body language of somebody whom you are not connected with in a positive way. Maybe they fold their arms across their chest. Maybe they roll their eyes. Maybe they sigh. Those nonverbal communication behaviors can distract from the message that you're trying to make when you're trying to influence other people to your way of thinking. Nonverbal communication tends to be culture specific, so we need to be wary of applying our own meanings and norms to people from other cultures. And there are lots of different aspects of this nonverbal communication process, but we read more in people's faces than often we hear in the words coming out of their mouth. Facial expression, eye contact, posture, orientation, proximity. Proximity is this idea of how close we physically are to another person versus how far away we are. Certainly from a Western European and a North American perspective, we value our personal space. Other cultures prefer to interact on a closer physical level. But if you have somebody from one culture invading the space of another person from another culture, that diminishes the ability to communicate effectively. How we touch other people when we talk to them, whether we should or we shouldn't, the fine movements of our face, maybe the gross movements. Consider somebody, the stereotypical Italian who speaks with their hands. These are the gross movements. Artifacts, how we wear our jewelry, how we wear our clothes, the type of pen we might use, how we dress, the setting of our work environment, and how we work directly with others. These are all aspects of nonverbal communication. So I'm creating this awareness in the back of your mind as you start to evaluate people that you know in your work life who you believe have great people skills. Now, if you start peeling back the onion, you can see that how they apply these different aspects of nonverbal communication, for example, or think of somebody who has poor interpersonal skills and how they might communicate in a nonverbal way. We're all about creating awareness here. Written communication, of course, is also hugely important in influencing other people and connecting with other people, because written work, as we know, can remain available on file for many, many years and can therefore go on influencing actions and interactions years after it was first recorded. So when we say think about what you're about to say, also think about what you're writing, because out of context, it can often be used against you when you really are trying to positively influence a situation. Influencing skills, again, there's that influencing word. So we're creating awareness about what effective interpersonal skills are about, our ability to connect, give solutions, give feedback, deal with objections, and listen with empathy. Influencing is one of the basic building blocks of social interaction and effective interpersonal skills. Handling feelings, being able to distinguish between sympathy and empathy, for example, sharing the other person's feelings. If they are sad, you are sad. That's certainly a definition of sympathy, where empathy is your ability to recognize other people's feelings, even if you do not share them. You are better equipped to help them when with their sadness, without necessarily feeling that sadness for yourself. Again, so many aspects that make up effective interpersonal skills. The third set of abilities are our intercession skills, which are our ability to build sincerity and trust, moderate behaviors, to be less impulsive, and to enhance agreeableness. These include anti-discriminatory practices, being systematic, being able to assess a situation, being able to plan, being able to have a structured decision-making process, our ability to manage risk, our ability to review and evaluate situations, our ability to end relationships at appropriate junctures, our ability to respond to trauma, and our ability to reflect on our own behavior. Again, the intercession skills include the ability to build sincerity and trust, moderate behaviors, to be less impulsive, and to enhance agreeableness. An anti-discriminatory practice is to understand the consequence of your behaviors. If you marginalize an individual or a group, if you exclude others from your group closure, if you stereotype, just in the way I did right now, speaking about Southern Italians and their gross motor behavior when they gesticulate with their hands while they're talking, stigmatization, and of course, scapegoating. All of these terms, which we know from our own educational process and from our daily work life, go to the heart of being able to have effective interpersonal skills, great people skills. Being systemic in our approach to things. A systemic approach builds reassurance in those around you. Our ability to assess what's going on around us, being able to practice a three-step process of making assessments. We gather information, we review and extend the information as the situation unfolds, we amend, consolidate, and deepen the assessment. The ability to logically go through life, looking at situations and assessing the impact without simply just reacting to what's happening around us, builds confidence in those around us that we are on our game and understand what's going on in our work lives. Managing risk, for example, having the ability to avoid the extremes. Informed risk-taking is the basis of person-centered work in the people profession. Not being naive about risk and not being paranoid about risk creates confidence in those around us that we are able to manage the situation as it unfolds. And of course, having reflective practices. This is an integral part of our ability to build effective interpersonal skills. Being able to read around the topics we are learning about and want to learn about, asking others the way they do things and why, watching what's going on around you, feeling and paying attention to your own emotions and about what prompts them and how you deal with the negative ones and how you manage the positive ones. Talking and being able to share your views and experiences with others in your organization, and then thinking about learning to value time spent thinking about your work. In the world that we live in, we are all so busy doing that we forget to think and be. We're in the business of being, not aware of what's going on around us. Having a reflective practice, a daily reflective practice, an internal reflective practice helps us better understand what's going on around us instead of simply reacting to what's going on around us. At this point, I always want to stress that we are human beings, not human doings or human earnings. And having reflective practices helps us stay focused on the fact that we are human beings. And those people in our workplace whom we want to influence and connect with are also human beings. They are not, they too are neither human doings our human earnings. So I talked to you about three sets of skills involved: the ability to effectively communicate, to interact, and to build trust and sincerity. So those are the three sets of interrelated skills that create an effective resume of interpersonal skills. Again, your long-term professional success in today's workplace, independent of your technical skills, depends solely on the quality of your people skills. So then, what is the upside to confronting our limiting beliefs about our people skills? Remember at the beginning I told you that you can absolutely, with focused effort, improve your interpersonal effectiveness. A greater understanding of our work roles, tasks, and responsibilities, and focusing on our limiting beliefs will help us be better in the workplace. Again, you're a human being, not a human doing or a human earning. So greater understanding of our work roles, tasks, and responsibilities is one of the outcomes of having better people skills. Obviously, we can learn more about our role and our job if we're able to connect with the people who are asking for our input or are expecting our output. With better people skills, we have an increased likelihood of achieving success because we understand the process and we're able to ask questions of the right people so that we can be more influential in our organizations. We're less likely to make mistakes when we have better people skills because people are willing to point out to us often and early if we're going down the wrong path. Think for a moment about a work situation where somebody didn't point out to you when something wasn't going well. That may be because you didn't have effective interpersonal skills and they weren't comfortable coming to you and saying something was amiss. You will also achieve a higher level of confidence in your own ability, in your own competence, when you are able to connect with other people on a recurring and constructive level. You will find there are greater opportunities for job satisfaction when you have better people skills. You will enjoy your work more. You also, again, will have the greatest ability to influence others when you have effective interpersonal skills. You will have greater opportunities for achieving an advanced level of professional mastery, of professional practice, because you will be given situations, because of your great people skills, to improve and to train and to work on more complex projects over time. So what? So what to all of this? So what about these people skills? And so what does it mean if you have them and you want to be better at the people business in your work life? It matters because if you don't have them, your career will either not take off or you can damage your career. So very briefly, I'm going to talk about the 5 bad habits that can destroy your career and what you can do about them beginning today. First of all, recognizing 5 of the symptoms of poor people skills is the first step towards making changes. Exhibiting lack of self-awareness in yourself, exhibiting lack of awareness of others, exhibiting poor interpersonal communication, exhibiting lack of awareness towards group dynamics, or exhibiting lack of awareness towards distinctions among people across different generational cohorts, professional differences, disciplines, and diverse cultures. So think for a moment about people you know who don't have effective interpersonal skills and start reflecting upon which of these 5 symptoms they express on any given day. This idea of exhibiting a lack of self-awareness. As an aspiring influencer or current leader within your workplace, you may exhibit a lack of self-awareness if your go-to response mechanism in the face of threat is to become defensive, or you deflect or behave in a passive-aggressive manner. Knowing that you are lacking in self-awareness it's a hard pill to swallow, absolutely, but if that is the first step that you have to confront in building your own interpersonal skills, I'm going to show you some techniques very quickly on how to recognize those behaviors and overcome them. Basically, having no clue or insight to how your behavior is perceived by others is often an indication of lack of self-awareness. Exhibiting a lack of awareness of others is typically having no clue or insight to the emotions, needs, or concerns of others. exhibiting poor interpersonal communication, having no clue or insight to how to communicate for effect, influence, or intent with others. Exhibiting lack of awareness towards group dynamics, not understanding how groups are living organisms and they react differently depending on who comes and goes from the group. Having no clue or insight about how group dynamics form or influence the work environment. Group dynamics are often the source of greatest strife in an organization. Think for a moment in your own organization or perhaps a previous work life where a certain group had a very positive attitude and atmosphere and another group had a very negative or corrosive attitude or atmosphere. It is the nature of group dynamics that causes these behaviors to surface to the forefront. If you don't understand them, that can derail your career and your ability to influence others. And finally, exhibiting lack of awareness towards distinctions among people, either across different generational cohorts, professional disciplines, or diverse cultures. Not having a clue or an insight about how differences among groups are created or can impact group performance and overall organizational performance. So those are the 5 bad habits that really encapsulate what bad or poor interpersonal or people skills can do to you, do to your work life, or to people in your organization. So what can you do about the 5 bad habits? So you've committed an hour today to listen to this webinar. And I recognize, and we all recognize in the leadership development community, that most executives don't have the luxury of stepping aside and attending a campus-based interpersonal skills development program. So I'm going to give you very quickly 5 coaching suggestions or activities to help you improve your people skills. Number 1, to mirror. Identify somebody you work with who has great interpersonal skills and mirror or emulate their behavior. Right off the bat, if you start to copy the good behaviors of those who behave in a way that you aspire to be like in a positive sense, you will start recognizing what it is about their behavior that makes them effective people, that gives them effective interpersonal skills. Activity number 2, to journal. Catch yourself in the act of being personable, in that moment where you see yourself exercising really great people skills. And I'll ask you to journal about how it made you feel and how others reacted or behaved in response to your behavior. To include third-party observers who are not the recipient of your positive gesture. This takes a lot of work. This is something you have to do every day. But when you start to reflect and journal about how your behavior impacts other people, you start to make distinctions about what's good behavior, what's great behavior, and what's not so good behavior. A third activity is to reflect. Identify somebody you work with or have worked with who has really awful people skills and reflect upon the impact of their behavior on the person they were interacting with in any given moment, as well as upon the third-party observers who were not the recipient of their behavior but were in the arc of their behavior. Think about somebody really awful whose skills, interpersonal skills, are really bad, and reflect upon how that affected the communication and their ability to influence others. A fourth activity is to observe. Catch yourself in the act of really awful people skills. Imagine that for a moment, because we all have moments where our people skills are absolutely dreadful. They fail us, either because we weren't thinking about it or we were under pressure. Whatever the reason, we have moments in any given day where our people skills are less than stellar. Catch yourself in the moment of having really awful people skills and reflect and journal about how others reacted to your poor people skills or how they behaved in response and how it made you feel. So you're doing a couple of different things here. You're reflecting upon the impact of your behavior on other people. You're reflecting on the impact of your behavior on the greater organization, and also reflect upon how it made you feel. Recognizing that you may feel disempowered when you are exercising really awful people skills towards your colleagues, your peers, your subordinates. Obviously, that is not the response you want to have if it is your goal to influence others to your way of thinking. Finally, activity number 5. So if you took nothing else away from today's discussion, I would ask you to begin here practicing a single positive interpersonal behavior beginning today. Identify one personal behavior, such as saying hello, if it is not in your comfort zone or your nature to say hello to everybody you meet, or to say thank you to everybody who does something for you, be it the cleaning lady, the coffee shop person, the admin assistant. Just by saying thank you, or even asking somebody, how is your day, if that's culturally acceptable to you, how is your day, how are things going, purposefully and mindfully employ it 100 times every day for a week. Then reflect upon how others begin to react to you differently. If you're attending this webinar today because you want to learn how to improve your interpersonal effectiveness or to help others improve their interpersonal effectiveness, start with the basics. This is a foundational step in building a long-term resume of interpersonal skills. Saying hello, saying thank you, asking people how was the day, acknowledging them, and purposefully and mindfully employing this little technique, only you need know about it, 100 times a day for a week. Then reflect upon how others begin to react differently to you over the long term. You will be amazed how this one single step can change how other people respond and react to you, and subsequently improve drastically your ability to influence others to your way of thinking. And that really is what our effective people skills are about. So I think that was very rapid. It was a huge topic in 40 minutes or thereabouts. But what you learned is the background for building better people skills. You learned about what are effective people skills. You learned why great people skills matter at work. And you learned what are the 5 bad habits that can destroy your career and what you can begin to do about them today. Again, your long-term professional success in today's workplace, independent of your technical skill, depends solely on the quality of your people skills. So if you're a leader or a manager or a supervisor and you want to influence your subordinates to improve their interpersonal effectiveness, you can cite this and let them know it doesn't matter technically how good they are, their long-term success beginning from today begins with building their interpersonal effectiveness. Of course, if you want to know more or you want to share this topic with your colleagues, I've provided a free report to the MILE community, and it's at http://bit.ly/MILE 5 habits. And this is a report that addresses the 5 bad habits that can just destroy your career and what you can do to change them. So, questions, concerns, comments, I welcome all of them. Mr. Jaffrey, we have met the bewitching hour, and we have about 20 minutes left for questions.
All right. Thank you very much for, quite promptly we have finished it at 40 minutes. So thank you very much, Dr. Tina. And folks, we are now open for the question and answers. If you have any questions, you could either insert into the question box, or you could equally raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon available on your webinar console. Well, let me go to the question box. There's one from Patricia Tucker. The question is, what gives me nightmares is the times I have displayed really awful people skills, exercises so practical and can be life-changing.
Thank you, Patricia Tucker. Was that a statement or a question? And I'll assume it was a question. And I think what we have to acknowledge is that we all, at some time or another, have exercised really poor people skills. And sometimes we cannot undo the past. So we simply go forward and practice better people skills with the awareness that we've had less effective people skills in the past. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And let me move to another one. I'm an engineer, so why do people skills really matter?
This, of course, is my favorite question because I was an engineer once at the beginning of my career, and I will tell you that when engineers fail to acknowledge that they are in the people business, they can become marginalized in their organization, and those other non-engineering people around them will become the leaders, will get promoted because they have effective interpersonal skills and they have to deal with clients and customers and also to manage and supervise other people. And so I give as an example, unless you are a coder or a code writer sitting in a basement writing code for Grand Theft Auto, you are at some point in your workday dealing with other people. So if you're an engineer, a scientist, an IT professional, and you want to influence the world around you, you have to focus on your interpersonal skills. And I recognize that answer might sound a bit skewed, but engineers and scientists in particular, through no fault of their own, have less development, often have less developed interpersonal skills because they focused on technical specialization along the way and became consumed by technical expertise, while others around them, perhaps in liberal arts programs or different types of programs, were concurrently developing their interpersonal effectiveness.
Thank you very much. Another one from Sami Al-Joey. The question is, can this method be applied for any or all different type of personalities?
I believe so in the realm of normal behavior, yes. So as an executive coach, I would always say that all of my clients are normal because I don't deal with anybody who has, I'm not equipped to coach anybody who has any mental health issues. I'm only working in the realm of normal behavior. So the answer is yes, this can be applied to anybody in any community. These are basic human interaction skills that we just have to remember to practice on a recurring basis.
Okay, another one from Sayeda Ansari. The question is, how do we deal with other people's negative behaviors towards us?
So that's an effective part, and that is a great question. So this webinar is about helping individuals improve their own interpersonal effectiveness. But the flip side of that is other people are less effective in their interpersonal behavior, and we have to work with them. For an example, it's part of an effective communication technique to say to somebody, if their interpersonal behavior includes yelling at you when they want your attention, the appropriate response would be, perhaps the response is, I want to be able to assist you, but I cannot talk to you when you speak to me in that manner because it's creating anxiety or we're not communicating effectively. Can we talk about this later when you are in control of your emotions or when you've calmed down? Letting other people know that their behavior is unacceptable is one avenue towards improving interpersonal effectiveness.
Thank you very much. Another one from Joe Simpson. The question is, how do you challenge or support people in overcoming their limiting beliefs?
As a coach, I frequently use the expression, that is a limiting belief. When somebody says, I can never speak in public, that is a limiting belief. Let's pull that apart and see what it is about speaking in public that limits your belief so much that you say you can never speak in public. Acknowledging a limiting belief is the first step towards overcoming a limiting belief. Does that answer the question?
All right, thank you very much. And we have a supplementary from Patricia Tucker. How do we make it up to those we have displayed those bad skills with? First.
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure that's situational, and it's often in our interest to say something like, and of course I myself have had to say, if and I do recall a situation in one of my previous assignments where I didn't yell loudly, but I yelled at a subordinate because I was frustrated. And upon reflection, I recognized that that was totally inappropriate behavior. So the next day, I took it upon myself to go back and express that my behavior was inappropriate. I didn't make an excuse for it. I just recognized that it was inappropriate. I apologized and hoped that we could move on from that point.
Thank you very much. And we have another one from Wanme Olatunde. The question is, sometimes people take advantage of you when you try to exhibit better people skills. How do you deal with this? How can I be assertive without being aggressive? Good one.
And that is a great question. And I love the fact that the questioner is asking it in the context of the material that we just presented. So it's finding a balance, and so knowing in your heart that just because you want to be assertive without being aggressive, but you don't want to be a pushover, not letting other people push you around. And one way is to find a way to say, don't assume my good behavior is a sign of weakness. My good behavior, my respect for you is a respect for the dignity of both of us in the workplace. But that doesn't mean you get to push me around. Telling other people how their behavior impacts you is an integral part of managing your interpersonal relationships with people.
Okay, excellent answer. So that really brings us towards the end of the webinar now. So any quick concluding remarks that you would like to give before we dismiss out? Dr. Tina.
I would go back to the introductory slide or the first, second, or third slide. With absolute certainty, I will tell you as an executive leadership coach that people skills matter and that you can improve them with a conscious effort, working every day on small steps, acknowledging limiting beliefs, setting them aside, and taking small steps, reflecting upon your behavior, and then taking small steps to make small improvements every day. And absolutely, find the one person who you think has great interpersonal skills and mirror their behavior, and then reflect as the days go by upon how other people change their behavior towards you.
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, quite an intriguing and excellent presentation. People and audience have been sending comments. They found it very, very informative. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Tina. And I really want to thank you on behalf of the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship for taking the time to deliver this live webinar, which indeed turned out to be quite interactive. So once again, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Jaffrey. My pleasure, and we will stay connected. Have a great day.
Definitely, likewise. We'll be connected, remain engaged. Thank you very much. And thank you all of those who participated in this webinar. We are recording it. Please stay tuned to webinar.mile.org to learn about our upcoming programs, webinars, and equally to access the archive sections. With that note, I would like to end and conclude. So you all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.